First of all, thank you guys for having me. It's a big honor to be giving this keynote today. Thank you to all the organizers. Honestly, we're here in the fall, and the amount this event has expanded is off the charts. So you guys are doing a fantastic job. I know it's going to be a great event. And Princeton, in general, is very special to me. I actually grew up in the area. Probably got kicked off campus a couple times for skating. So hopefully my name's on some database saying, don't bring this guy back. And then in high school, I actually took a computer science class like down the street, so that's pretty cool. Anyways, I am from Verbwire. My background is I spent over 15 years as a trader on Wall Street, trading primarily ETFs and Delta One products, mainly out of New York, but also London and Hong Kong. Trade everything from equities, fixed income, commodities, FX. My co-founder, Ben Coley, sitting over there, banking smile, yeah. He used to be the global head of principal trading products, total rock star, literally the best co-founder I could ask for. But he ran a big team there. Basically, anytime someone was trading principally electronically on the trading floor, that would go through his team. But I've always been a builder, right? I've always been the kind of guy in high school or college or even when I was working, nights and weekends, building side projects or doing hackathons like this. There's an energy to that. But you might always say, this is why, first of all, I want to talk about, before I talk about anything Verbwire related, it's why would you walk away from a Wall Street career to start this company, right? Becky and I were both at the peak of our career when we did this, right? Why would you do that? And there's a couple of things I want to touch on. And this might be useful, might be not for life advice. First and foremost, there's a saying that a salary is the most addictive drug. And you'll find this as you go out in the workforce, right? Once you start earning money, it's tough for you to then walk away from that. Your brain gets tricked and you can't do it. But I'll tell you, there's a couple ways that you can get around that and trick yourself. Sometimes it's the best thing you can do. I'll give you an example, right? We used to work at Credit Suisse. You guys familiar with what happened there recently? So had I stayed there, I would have been forced to make a very difficult decision. That was a very stable job, right? And granted, I would have probably got to another bank or something else, but that just shows you something you think is stable is probably not. If you're going to do the startup world, it might seem risky, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's the least unstable thing. The other thing I want to touch on, and again, I'll borrow this story because I saw this video a couple years ago by actually a Princeton grad, somewhat famous, you might have heard of him, by the name of Jeff Bezos. You know, right? Obviously started Amazon, you might have known he went to Princeton. What you might have not known is that he used to work at a hedge fund, very successful hedge fund called D.E. Shaw, right? This is back before he started Amazon. And when the internet was kind of starting to be a thing, right, he went to his boss and said, hey, I have this great idea. I want to build this thing on the internet. His boss said, that's a great idea for someone else to build. Why you, right? Why would you leave? You're earning a great income. If you know if you stay here, you're going to be very successful. And he came up with what he called his regret minimization framework. Best way to put that is, he thought of himself at some later stage, let's say the age of 80, and he looked back on his life, and he said, if I made this decision, would I regret it? I knew what my life would be like staying on Wall Street. I knew I'd make a good living, that'd be great. But I know at the age of 80, I would always regret not doing that startup. I'd always regret not taking that chance. And so his regret minimization framework is, look back on any decision you make in life, and would you regret not doing that? And it's an important thing to do. And that was actually a pretty big driver for me as I made my decision. The other thing I'll talk about is, a lot of life is luck, right? Whether or not, but you can create your own luck. And I'll give another example from my life, right? As I said, I always used to be building nights and weekends, right? And way back many, many years ago, 2012, a coworker and I were working on this idea, and we had this concept of taking in transaction data from, let's say, credit cards or your bank, and then graphing it, kind of like I don't know if you've ever used Mint, right? Graphing your transactions over time and doing the clustering analysis. And that'd be a cool app. And we were thinking through this, like, this might be a good startup idea, it might not be. And long story short, my friend had another friend who met these two guys at a party in Brooklyn. And they were working on something similar at the time. They said, hey, why don't you meet Justin and Justin? They're working on something cool. Why, see if there's anything you guys can do together. Long story short, I had a beer with these guys at the bar, along with my coworker Justin, and he said, we realized very quickly that they were rock stars. So what we want to do, we just said, how about we just invest in you? That was one of my angel investments. I do a variety of angel investments. That, to this day, is my most successful angel investment, because that company, those are Zach and William, they started a company called Plaid that is now a multi-decade unicorn fintech startup, right? Their idea at the time was what I was working on. Right? It was to graph data. But it evolved, they quickly realized that there was a gap in the market and they built the same gap. So, long story short, I call this manufactured serendipity. And when you're here today, when you're building, you're doing things, a lot of this is what I call the builder's mentality, right? you know that you can build something. You can do anything you want to do, right? And this is a compounding process. Computer science is a compounding process, right? As you learn, as you start to code, right? Sometimes you get frustrated, you bash your head against the wall. But if you do more and more of it, it gets easier, and you start to learn. And you realize at a point that you can build anything, right? And when I say manufacturing serendipity, it's also putting yourself in the right situations, right? Meeting the right people, doing hackathons like this, that will carry you through life. And the more you do that, the more you'll be successful. And I just bring this up because had I not been building that side project, had I not been working at CS at the time and met these people, I never would have made that investment. So let's talk a little bit about what we're working on here, right? How many people are familiar with Bitcoin? All right, good. Ethereum? All right. How many of you have ever tried to build something in Web3, a smart contract? Good, that's awesome. All right, we'll come back to that. So obviously, you guys are familiar with Bitcoin. It's any kind of blockchain is a distributed, decentralized ledger, usually public, but doesn't have to be, right? And then Bitcoin is the OG, right? The original product, the store of value, right? That will be here for a very long time and be remarkably successful. Then you had Ethereum come along that introduced this concept of programmable smart contracts, easily programmable smart contracts. And then you can do all sorts of really cool stuff. So right now you look at what people are doing in DeFi, decentralized finance, replacing banks. Again, using the example of what's been going on recently, right? There's a very big value to having these things, the accountability that the blockchain can provide. And there's really cool things going on in DeFi. Non-fungible tokens, NFTs, are another very cool aspect, right? That's kind of popped up in the last few years. Most people know them as these, right? Like, these are worth $100,000+ each, and you say, why, right? And like, I get it. It's very tough for people to look at this and say, I don't get why that's worth what it is. But you got to realize that this is just a filtering mechanism. If you can see what is underneath the surface. Like, these are obviously remarkably successful, but the smart contracts behind them and what this has changed in terms of the relationship between consumers and products is major, right? There's more to it. So let's say NFTs as an example on the blockchain, right? And here's 721 or 1155. They are anywhere, anything where you have identity, proof of authenticity, proof of provenance, right? That works very, very well right now for artwork, right? Obviously people use that for art, NFTs online, you got JPEGs, you can right-click save, but the cool thing about NFT is you can track that over time. Now, I also say this is a new economic model for engagement, right? What Bored Ape did, take this to another extent. If you're a brand, right? Before, if you did a product launch, and let's say if there are any like sneakerheads in here or collectors of various things, like you could say, hey, I found XYZ brand before anyone else, or I found this artist, this musician before anyone else. That's great to have a bragging rights 5 years later. Tell all your friends, hey, I found him before anyone else, but generally you don't have a lot to show for that. The cool thing about an NFT type tie-in is it can incentivize a consumer to promote a brand, and it creates this flywheel effect, because consumers can benefit now economically from a brand being successful. That could be an artist. Let's say an artist issues his music as an NFT. You can then buy that NFT, and then 5 years from now, when that artist is blown up and is everywhere, and it's like a Taylor Swift level success, those NFTs will be theoretically worth a lot more. Now, I also say, from future application perspectives, I love giving the example of real estate, right? If you buy a house now anywhere, like let's say in Princeton, right? You sign a lot of paperwork, sign over your life basically, sign a mortgage. And part of that is you sign a piece of paper and you send mail off to the county clerk. A couple weeks later, they stamp it and mail it back to you, and that's like your deed. You're like, this is 2023, like how is this still a thing, right? That is prime for the blockchain. When we were at CS, we were working on a product to move securities transactions onto the blockchain. And it used to be T3 settlement, then T2, meaning it took 3 days, now 2 days. There's no reason why that shouldn't be instantaneous. That's going to be powered by the blockchain. Same thing with securitized products. Some of these things take weeks to settle, right? Moving all of these real-world assets onto the blockchain and doing securitization and settlement. Gaming is big. Are there any gamers in here? Anyone? Good. All right. I love gaming, right? I spent last weekend playing the new Dial before beta, so I'll play it anytime. But when you look at gaming in general, I remember like back 2004, 2005, people were grinding World of Warcraft and like selling gold that they did in game to people, right? This economic model of having an in-game asset that's worth something has been around for a while, it just hasn't been embraced. Gaming companies did loot boxes that got a lot of pushback, microtransactions, and for good reason, because the end consumer really didn't get a lot of value from them. Now, take this to the next step. I guarantee every single gaming company right now is looking at something like an NFT for in-game assets. Let's say you're playing a game and you spend dozens, if not hundreds of hours grinding for XYZ sword or your character, right? What if you can then take that sword as a digital collectible and then trade it, or move to another game? That's what is coming. That's the power that's going to be influenced by this. Same thing with the metaverse. I know metaverse is very was hot, right? But I think generally that was just too early, and it will come over time. And if you look at a lot of the advancements in AI, obviously that's been very big lately. I am blown away by how fast something like Midjourney has been able to generate photorealistic images. And there's a good actual quote from head of NVIDIA, I think it was a week or two ago, where he said, in the future, all pixels will be generated rather than rendered. If you're familiar with 3D games now, right, it's basically, it takes an army of 3D modelers working in 3D Studio Max or Maya. You then put in your UVs, you do texturing, and you do rigging, and then all this cool stuff, and hundreds of millions of dollars later, you have a AAA game, right? AI will probably change that entire model, where you just go in and AI will generate a photorealistic model or a world or whatever else. Take that a couple extra steps, I think there's going to actually be another explosion of indie games coming up that's going to utilize that technology. I think it's going to be, if you're a gamer, I think the next 5 to 10 years is going to be really, really cool. I bring this up from the perspective of, I think NFTs are going to be a big part of that as well. I think it's going to be a good way to incentivize, let's say, a indie game developer to have a consumer, a gamer, and they can both do well. The other thing I'll say is this hoodie, I'm not just wearing this because I'm trying to be cool being back on the college campus. This is actually a pretty special hoodie. This is actually from an NFT project I own called Zuki, and they did a drop called with Ambush. If you guys know Ambush, it's a clothing / jewelry company based out of Tokyo. This sweatshirt has actually got a chip in it. If you guys know crypto, it's got basically a hardware wallet, but it's a one-way signature hardware wallet. When I got this drop, right, and they gave it to a limited number of people, right, you scanned it, and then you got to mint an NFT. But the real magic behind that was that they embedded rarity to it. So there could be like, let's say 500 hoodies, but maybe you mint the hoodie that's kind of, it could be like what they call a spirit hoodie or a fire elemental hoodie. That might sound cool, might not. But what's cool about that is, again, looking for brands as they connect the physical to digital world, and you look at digital collectibles, it could be big, this new gamification thing. And I'll just say the stat, right? The collectibles market right now is huge, $402 billion in 2021. We are obviously a digitalized society, right? Billions of people in the world, everyone is looking for identity. So as you extend it out over the next 5 or 10 years, this is going to be embraced by the world. All right, if you haven't bought into any of that, I'll show you this. This is the stat of Web3 developers so far, right? This is from Electric Capital. As of the end of 2022, there's about 24,000 active Web3 developers in the world. Still pretty tiny. But the demand is off the charts, right? In the bull market, if you were a senior web, a blockchain developer in Silicon Valley, you're probably making $1 million plus a year, something like that. And again, when you look at this 24,000, this is a little updated, right? 24,000 and change currently. There's over 30 million App Store developers in the Apple App Store, and over 80 million unique GitHub profiles. So there's a huge gap in the market, right? And that's going to be filled. Not only that, but the company that did this research report, Electric Capital, said that in the next couple of years, between now and 2030, there's going to be over 1 million blockchain development jobs. Okay, you're all entering the workforce. I'm going to tell you one of the biggest demanding jobs right now is this. So you should be paying attention. Now, here is the problem, right? If you're doing, again, those of you who have done Web3 development before, awesome. But this is currently the process to deploy a smart contract, right? It's everything from setting up MetaMask, which is a crypto wallet, getting your seed phrase, buying crypto on something like Coinbase, installing Hardhat, learning Solidity, which is kind of like JavaScript, but a little bit different, right? Deploying the smart contract, testing. By the way, testing is extraordinarily important, right? You all hear about all these hacks, people losing hundreds of billions of dollars in a DeFi hack. Or last year, people were doing an other-side meta mint, and they lost $100+ million just to inefficient gas, right? These are all things that it takes literally months to learn if you really want to get this right. And Banky and I coming from Wall Street, we come from the background where you make a mistake in code or you make a mistake pricing an asset, you lose millions of dollars like that. That just happens, right? But if you're someone, let's say, coming from Meta or Google or whatever else, like if Instagram goes down and you're not able to post pictures of your cat eating like breakfast, like, you know, it might suck, people will complain, but you're not gonna lose millions of dollars, right? It's a different level of coding. And that's why it's kind of intimidating building in this space. We came in, banking and I saw this as a huge opportunity set, right? And that's why we are building Verbwire. Verbwire is the universal API for Web3. Anyone can come in, no matter your knowledge level, no matter your language of choice. If you want to operate in Java or C# or Python or JavaScript, you can interact with blockchain. Deploy a smart contract and click on our platform, update an NFT, it's an NFT, push IPFS, pull data, anything you want to do. And you can get started in literally minutes rather than taking hours, months, years to master this. And we are going to power, we call ourselves, again, the Plaid for Web3. I will adopt this because it's near and dear to my heart, but we're Plaid for Web3. Why is that? Plaid came in, and pre-Plaid, right, there's Yodlee, they charge $10,000 to build and connect events, which is wild if you're a startup, right? Why would you charge that much? Plaid came in, revolutionized the space. You had this explosion in the ecosystem of startups. The Chimes, the Robinhoods, even the Coinbases of the world, they're all using Plaid to connect to other banks. We view ourselves the same way. We are Plaid for Web3, and we connect whatever startup, whatever idea you want to build to the blockchain without you taking the time to really get into the nitty-gritty details. We abstract that process away. We're the experts. Don't worry about inefficient gas. We take care of that. Don't worry about anything else. We let you build your product faster than anyone else. Okay. Now, I'll say this because I hope you guys will build on us this weekend. We are a sponsor. We're giving away a ton of prizes. Actually, to such an extent that, like, I think if all of you build something with us, we're going to give you something this weekend, right? So we have 2 teams are getting $200, 6 teams are getting $100 per team, and then if there's any leftover teams, we'll give you a bunch of API credits. So literally, we're giving away a ton of stuff. You should definitely use this as an opportunity. If I didn't convince you before about the future potential of this space, you know, hopefully this alone just gives you good incentive to build with us. And the other thing, by the way, we're giving away to literally everyone, no matter what, whether you build with us or not, we're going to give you a free month of our paid service. That will let you deploy to, you know, any contract, any blockchain you want, from Ethereum to Polygon, and keep going. Scan this, sign up for an account, right, and then shoot us an email, either support@verbwire.com or I'm just at verbwire.com, and we'll give you the free code for that. Scan this, definitely sign up. It is extremely valuable. Obviously, people pay a lot of money for this. And the last thing I'll say, well, 2 last things. Number one, we are, even though we're fully remote, our corporate HQ is in Princeton. So those of you who are in Princeton, or if you're not in Princeton, we're looking for interns for the summer. So if you're interested, definitely keep in touch. And if you have questions, 9 p.m. tonight, we're doing a Q&A session. 10, was it A10, I believe the room? Anyways, come find us if you want to ask us questions. Becky and I have an open door policy. So whether you want to talk about startups or finance or trading or, you know, blockchain or whatever, you want to have ideas, bounce it off us, we're there. We'll be in the Discord all weekend, we'll be hanging around all weekend, you can come find me. I'm bojo.io in Discord, find me there. And with that, I say, happy hacking. Again, I'll say, this is one of the best things you guys can do. Hackathons are amazing. This is such great energy, so I'm happy you all are here. Those of you who did the fall hackathon, welcome back. It's great to see your faces, the new ones. Thank you for doing this. Again, thank you to the organizers. You guys are doing an awesome job. And I'll see you around. Good luck. Woo!